Welcome back, guys. Today on how to build a campground, we are going to do a upgrade on the Polaris EV. The nickel batteries that are in it pretty much are dying. I've had it for about 3 years, so I've done a lot of cycles. Pretty much I use it every single day, bombing around in the woods. And I'm gonna switch over to lithium. So I'm gonna go from 8 batteries down to 4, excuse me. And I'm gonna explain the entire process and what I went through and some fuses that I burnt out. I've only been using it for about 4 days, but I captured the whole process and what it was like to do the upgrade. I think if you have a Polaris and you're thinking about going from the nickel batteries like I did down to 4 lithium, you're gonna get quite a bit out of this video. And if you're new to this channel, my name is Michael Patterson, and we're trying to build a campground here in Sanford, Maine. And if you want to learn more about what it's like to try to build a campground in Maine and the approval process and everything we're going through with the neighbors and all of that business, then subscribe, click the like button if you're getting a lot of information from these videos. I really appreciate that. All right, let's get to it. Okay. Since I'm figuring this out, you may go in different steps, but I'm gonna take these brackets off the batteries. Got another one back there. So I'm gonna take those off, and then I think maybe even before I do that, I'm going to remove the positive and negative and neutral connections. That seems like maybe it'd be a little bit brighter of a move, so I'll do that. All right, look at the crap. All that buildup on my terminal on the battery. If anyone has any idea on why that happened, please comment on it so I can avoid it in the future with my lithium ones. Okay, so I'm gonna take that terminal off. All right, maybe someone can tell me what this thing does. I don't know, but I took it off a positive connection. It was right there. So I just labeled it positive because basically, guys, I'm not Mr. Mechanic. I'm a weekend warrior. I'm just not afraid of this stuff. And I try to be careful. So I'm gonna keep taking things apart and removing all the terminal connections first. And then I'm gonna remove these battery braces and get those 8 batteries out of there. Okay guys, found another one of these on the other side. I have no idea what it does. You can see it's connected to the battery brace here. Went to positive, so I just put a positive note on it, and that's how I'm gonna wire it back up. So trying to remove the battery brace, and this bolt will not come loose. It's a 15 millimeter. And yeah, so I'm gonna spray some PP Blaster on it. You can see I already wrenched it there pretty good. Maybe I had the wrong wrench on it. I'll double check it, but not easy to come off. Okay, newsflash guys, that is welded on there. So I put the PP Blaster to it. It definitely helped me get it out. But yeah, just be aware of that. Okay, I'm pulling the batteries out from the back. Got all the connections taken off. Disconnect all the watering things. Boy, I'm gonna be glad I don't have to add water in my batteries anymore. Look at all the sticks and stuff in there that have gotten jammed up over the last couple of years. And I'm gonna keep getting these batteries out of here. Let me tell you, these suckers are heavy. Look at that, guys. Had a hole right into one of my batteries. Okay guys, I have these clamps that go over. There's another one right there, you can see. And I thought I remembered something about keeping radio frequencies or noise coming from the electrical current that these take care of. I don't know, maybe someone can confirm that. But anyway, I got all the batteries out, all 8 batteries. They're all right there. I'm gonna give someone a really good deal on them. All right, guys. I'm taking the shop vac to it and just cleaning it out. You can see my drive shaft right there. And so I'm thinking there's quite a bit of corrosion underneath this, and I may have to, because this thing's pretty new and I really don't want to lose it to rust. So I'm going to take these battery plates out, which I don't think I can have anyway, because the new batteries are a bit taller. I'll show you that in a minute. But I'm going to get these plates out, and I got this tool off of Amazon, and I used it on a Jeep modification that I did ages ago, and just kind of put it in there and pry it out, and that's all there is to it. That's how it works. Of course, they just had to hide one back there, so be aware of that. I'm gonna have to put the camera down in order to get that one out. All right, so I don't like what I see. I just bought this, and there was obviously some acid getting from that hole in that battery, possibly, likely, and but I don't want to put it with the new batteries in. This is all still real solid, but that rust is bad, so I'm going to take those plates off and see about getting them powder coated or something, because I spent too much money on this thing. I bought it brand new, so I don't want to be dealing with that. Here's the new battery compared to the old battery. You can see that it's about the same size, a little bit taller because there's a bunch of electronics on the top of this thing. But anyway, I'm going to go from 8 batteries to 4. As projects go, this plate isn't just going to come out of there through this hole because the tire and the sidewall's in the way, so I'm going to have to take that sidewall off. You can see underneath that's a Torx screw in order to get it off. I didn't have to take that panel completely off. Let me step back here so you can see what's going on. To get that out, I just had to take that Torx nut from underneath and just pull the panel out, and that's going to allow me to get this out of there. So just now I got to do it on the other side and get them painted. And I also had to take off these 2 clips here, down there, not clips, Torx screws. And this had to come out, as well as one behind here. Really should come out. Okay, on this other plate where I had all the acid from the battery, corroded the top of the nuts. So I can't get them off because they're smaller now because it just corroded the steel. So I'm gonna have to cut them off and buy new ones. Okay, I also got this cable kit. It's like another 50 bucks or something. And I got all the cold weather kit. So I'm gonna coat my batteries in these blankets, and probably have to wire them up as well. I'll figure it out, but I'll show you my invoice for all this as well. Okay, you can see I paid $49.37 for the batteries. I identified positive and negative connections on the Polaris itself. The M1, M2, and M3 actually go to the motor. And then I followed the positive to an ignition switch, which is to turn it on and off, or, lights activated. And then I read the manual, and I wanted to do a 48 volt setup with the batteries in series. Now that I've got the battery plates back that will sit on here, I'm looking at what's going on here with the rust, and you can see it's just surface rust, but I'm going to POR what you see in here. It's going to take me some time, but I'm going to have to remove this plastic skid plate, which is held on by a whole bunch of screws, because I'm a little bit nervous about what it looks like under here. So and I just want to make sure I get that POR everywhere. So it's turning into a bigger project only because of the rust. But I've spent a lot of money on this, and you can see I've got rust way over there too, quite a bit. And so I don't want to spend $5,000 on batteries and then have a rust problem in 3 or 4 years where I've got to replace the frame. So just going to get her done. Okay, I got the skid plate off. Notice that I've got a little bit of damage right here. Hit something pretty hard. So, but more importantly, when I take a look under here, what I'm finding is that the rust in some areas is actually worse than I thought. Look at that. So I'm glad I'm taking it off and Just gonna make sure I get all these little areas with the POR 15. Okay, so while I wait for my POR to show up to fix my paint, I installed the battery equalizer and a shunt so that I can put a gauge and read the overall battery consumption from a single gauge, which these batteries from SunFunKit do not provide. So I put in a shunt. For those of you who think you're going to use the existing battery straps to hold down the SunFunKits that have the cold weather kit, it's not going to work because they will not fit around all the insulation. So I'm going to have to completely fabricate something new. Okay, so here's what I've decided to do to mount the batteries. Initially, the batteries mounted 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So now I'm going from 4 to 2 batteries per tray. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount the 2 batteries here and here, going like that. And I'll diagram that out for you. So I'm going to be able to reuse this one right here. And you can see on the other side what that is just a nut. And so I'm going to drill a hole right here for another one. That way I can have a piece of metal across in order to strap down the batteries and hold them tightly in place. Because you can't use bungee cords, right? Because the rubber will break down over time. And I'm going to reuse these metal bolts that came with the original battery hold downs. So let's get to it. So now what I have to do on the back of the battery plate is I drilled this hole. I'm gonna have to, one of these 5/16 24 nuts, I'm gonna have to weld it onto the back. And I'm not a great TIG welder, but that's what I'm gonna do to get that on there. So that means I gotta scrub off all this brand new powder coating around the nut to get it nice and clean for me to weld. So and I have to do that, weld it, because remember the skid plate goes underneath and I won't have access to the other side of this nut. So let's get her done. So I welded a M8 nut to the bottom of the battery plate, and you can see that my welding skills are horrible. You know, hey, I'm a novice. If you want to poke fun of me, go ahead in the comments down below, I guess. I'm trying. Okay guys, still waiting for Amazon to deliver the POR 15 components so I can take care of the rust. But I did, like I said, I got these powder coated, and I got the batteries on there because I need to fabricate away, you know, some guards to keep these batteries from moving. I can fasten them down okay, but you can see that on the original tray, I actually pounded down these pieces of metal that stood up in order to grab onto these, and the batteries would sit inside these areas so that when you're getting jostled around in the woods, well, I lost that. So now I have to fabricate something unique to these batteries. So what I'm doing is I got some of this 1.5" angle iron from Lowe's, and I'm gonna cut it up and put some along here and along here and the other 2 sides, so that the batteries are basically in here tight. And then along the top, you can see I've got just enough room. I'm gonna put a support across the top, and I'm gonna use the original battery holders to come down to this nut. And you can see here that I welded on a nut onto the other side, and I'll use these very long rods to hold the batteries to the plate. So that's my plan. It may change. Okay, what I did is I laid out the angle iron. These are about 1 foot long each, and I put the batteries on there, and I tuck these underneath the batteries on the edge, and laid them all out. And then I took a white line and marked them. And what it does, what it comes out to measurement wise is 17.5 this way and 15 this way. And that gives 3/4 of an inch all the way around and in between for the battery insulation, okay? So, and I realize it could be, you know, this could be some jostling around, but remember across the top of the batteries, I'm putting a bracket to hold them tight down. All right, so just gotta decide. I think I'm gonna POR 15 these before I fasten them to that plate. But remember the skid plate is underneath this, so I won't have access to the bolts unless I take the skid plate off. So I'm gonna use probably some Loctite. I might actually use the red, which is more permanent, to hold these brackets down, because I really don't want to mess with my powder coating anymore. So I think I'm just gonna, you know, prep these and POR 15 them. All right, here we go. I got the brackets on there. I got some stainless steel bolts going in. Not too excited about the batteries resting on those, so I may put, I don't know if they're called, the type of nut that I can drive down there that'll be flat. And then I'll have to chamfer out the metal for it to set in there. But I might go through that as well, just because, you know, I don't want to damage my $5,000 in batteries. Okay, I fabricated this aluminum to go on there, but it's too tight and it's gonna break my top of my batteries. So I'm gonna have to do it out of angle iron. Not a big deal. Okay, I decided to go with the angle iron, so it's not quite as tight to hold this whole thing down. And with that coming up, you know, 1.5 inches, I don't think there's, you know, there'll be some movement around in there if I go over bumps or whatever. But I'll get it tight. I may have to cut these rods, you know, 1/2 inch, just because, you know, I mean, look at that, right? I mean, so probably have to take 1/2 inch off of those. But I think that's the way I'm gonna go to fasten the batteries to the original battery tray. Pretty happy with that. I think it's gonna be real stable. Now I got a POR 15 everything, just waiting for Amazon to get me my package. And I'm gonna fabricate the other side now so that I have both sides done. Just need to paint it up. Still gotta do my frame. You can see it's a mess. So I power washed everything, and so I'm just gonna prep it with the POR stuff and hopefully make some headway soon. One of the things I was concerned about with this piece of steel holding the batteries down is the amount of pressure in one point on the battery, because that battery is just a cap. That cover is just a cap, excuse me. And if I put a lot of pressure in that one area, then it could crack that cover or, you know, cause damage to the battery, you know, because there's, like I said, there's a lot of electronics right in the cover. So what I did is, instead of just putting that on like that, is I'm putting these plates on first. And this is just leftover steel that I have from other projects. And that way, when it puts pressure down, you know, and I'm not going to crank it too tight anyway, but, you know, I do need to put some pressure on it. That plate is going to more evenly disperse the pressure. So basically, if I take that over here on top of the winter kit here, then, you know, and I'm going to have everything properly painted and everything. I'm prepping the metal now, but just wanted to show you guys that I was thinking ahead on that. Hopefully I can avoid some problems in the future. All right, had to do some final fitment here. And you won't like taking the batteries in and out many times, because they're kind of heavy and awkward, especially squeezing them in this space right here. But I'm happy with how it came out, you know. I got, I'm gonna properly POR these or powder coat, I'm not really sure yet, but they'll be black. And this bracket I made up here is really great, because it's snug, but it's not putting too much pressure on the battery. And I know that that battery, if I hit a big bump, it's not going to come out of the, it's not going to come out of there. And you can see that I just used the existing bolts, and right down there I welded a bolt underneath. And boy, you can tell those are corroded a little bit. Now I want to show you something that it made a rookie mistake, and I want to share it with you guys so that you'll avoid it if you decide to do something similar. And that's right there. You see that nut? Well, that's preventing the battery pan from sitting on the frame because I got too close to the frame with that nut. Now, luckily the bolt comes down without hitting the frame, but you know, just rookie mistake. I could have easily moved that over half an inch and not had any problems with what I did, but I'm not going to fix it. I'm just going to leave it the way it is for now. If it bothers me enough, I may oh, I don't know, I may fix it. But anyway, I just want to point that stuff out to you guys so that you don't make the same mistakes I do, because really those bolts should miss the frame like it does here, right? That's what you want ideally. And my other bolts are coming through like this. Now, the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm not happy with these bolts sticking up. So I bought new 12 millimeter M6 metric bolts, and they're flatheads. So I'm going to chamfer the metal here, and that way the flathead sits down in the metal, and that way it'll be nice and smooth across here for the battery. I just don't want, you know, a portion of the battery sitting on that screw. I think it'll wear a hole in the bag, and I don't want, you know, you're spending $5,000 for all of this because I got the winter kit and the wiring kit and, you know, those components right there. So I just want to make sure that as much as I'm hacking this together, I want to make sure that I'm taking my time and doing things best I can. All right, after recording that and thinking about how stupid it was not to put in the extra effort to actually move the nut, I just drilled another hole and moved it over there about a half an inch. And so it won't be resting on the frame anymore, and everything will fit as it should. So what I did is I chamfered out the metal so that I could countersink a flat head screw in there, and that way it'll be nice and smooth all the way across, and I don't have to worry about the bolt head rubbing into my battery case. I had to take these side panels off because I ended up removing these completely to POR them because the rust was actually extended up in there. So I got these in. You can see these are all flat, and you know, my paint job's not perfect, but I don't care. Nobody ever sees this in here anyway. But everything's back together. I'm ready to start putting the batteries back in. And then after I get everything wired up, and I'll test it. And then from there, I'll put the panels back on. Okay guys, I'm wiring it up. And as part of the kit that I purchased from these guys, they sold me this battery equalizer. But you can see that the wires from it are not long enough to reach. So it's a kit, I guess, but there's definitely some alterations that you're going to need to do. So I'm going to cut these wires and put extensions on them. Okay, I've got it all wired up. And you can see I've got the battery equalizer wired to each battery. Some of the wires were a little short, so I just made sure I used the same gauge wire and extended them. Make sure you turn that Bluetooth on when you connect with the app, because the app is super cool. And I got them all wired up in series. I'm not using the shunt right now because I caused a hard fault, and I had to call their tech support and spoke with Austin, who's awesome. Awesome Austin. But I will use the shunt for that gauge later, because you know, my daughters and stuff probably don't want to use the iPhone app. But real happy. You could see I had to coil things up down there with that because I bought their cables. And this one cable was a little short. It would have been nice if they made one of the serial lines a little bit longer, maybe by about 4 inches. But it still worked. I have a little bit of slack, so it's not a big deal. Real happy. So I'm gonna give it a ride and make sure that everything's working okay. All right, here we go. You can see my battery usage is at 100%, because that's the old gauge, and I haven't got this new one working yet, but it installed nicely. So far, I've got it in medium. And my batteries, I haven't even charged them yet. They're just the way they came from the factory at 49%. Yeah, plenty of pull. Definitely, you know, it's lighter now because I only have 4 batteries. I haven't strapped down my batteries yet, but I'm gonna get all that set up in a minute after I do this test run. Wow, definitely feels great. Plenty of pull. All right, I'm gonna throw it into high range. Yeah, see if those batteries, see if anything's melting back there. Wow, it's really fast. I wonder if it's even faster than it was. Just gonna turn around here. Definitely plenty of pull on those batteries. Wow. Wow, the tires are almost spinning when I punch it. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the positive cable and see if it's hot. That's my scientific test. Oh my God, this thing has got nuts for power. All right, turn it off. Crank, pop that. Nope. Man, it's great. All right, now I'm gonna take these fabricated hold downs and put them across my batteries. There you can see I got it in there, and I'm gonna pop some bolts down in there and screw them in down there, and those will hold the batteries on. And you can see they're all in place now because I have these in. So I'm spending some time, maybe more time than you guys want on those, but you're gonna have to do it if you want to convert to lithium and you want to use SFK winter kit, which I had to do. If you don't have the winter kit, you won't have to do all this. It's a lot more work, but I live in Maine, so I had to do it. All right, it's been 2 months since I did this upgrade. I've been riding this thing every day during the summer, and I wanted to give you guys an update on some of the things that have happened. I was burning a fuse. I burnt a fuse, and then I had a problem with it wouldn't charge again unless I pulled that fuse out, and then popped it back in, did nothing else, it would start charging again. It was the craziest problem. So I ended up removing a couple of wires that went to the battery, and yeah, that were on the Polaris system. Now it's been a while, but now I noticed that the battery light, when it was charging, it was really bright, and I thought, hey, that's not good for an LED to glow brighter than it normally does, and sure enough, it burnt out on me. So that's one casualty of upgrading, and so I may have to replace that switch if I care, but it's nice to see it glowing green. The other thing that happened is when I put it in reverse, you can see I've got an illuminated LED, but again, it burnt out my forward LED. My other LEDs are all working fine. So it burnt out this one, and it burnt out forward. And I may try reconnecting those wires down below, but it's been a while, but I don't think that was a problem. It was definitely, yeah, so anyway. So what I want to talk about today is I'm having problems with the app properly, what am I trying to say, charge the batteries. And sometimes it won't finish charging. So I have to basically unplug it from the wall, plug it back in, and it continues to charge it. So I haven't talked to tech support about that, but I'm about to. You can see, remember that I did buy that equalizer right there to balance the charge, but now I've got a problem where battery 3 out of the 4 last night did not properly charge up to, you know, sometimes it goes to 70%, sometimes it goes to 85%. If I look at the app right now, because I kept plugging it back, unplugging it and plugging it back in, it's up to 85%. So gotta remember, this is not really a kit like from Polaris. You're buying something aftermarket, so you're going to end up troubleshooting the process of upgrading from the standard nickel batteries to the lithium. Now, I will say this: I spent, as you know, over $5,000 to do this upgrade to the 4 batteries, and my charge lasts probably twice as long, maybe a little bit more. And if I were to do it again, would I go to lithium? I'm not sure I would. It's considerably more stiff now when I ride the side-by-side. It's really not that much faster, which I don't care about anyway. And I wanted to soften the shocks up, and I think they're already as soft as I can go. So it's just a stiffer ride now because there's not as much weight. So anyway, I'm working through the battery problem that I'm having. And so far, everything is set exactly the way they want. So now, in order to troubleshoot this, I have to get at those LEDs that are inside those bags to see what their color is. So I have to take these panels off again using my pry bar. Yeah, it's a bummer, but not the end of the world. But they really should provide a way to wire whatever the status is of those LEDs, or to get it from the app. I shouldn't have to, go through the hassle of taking these off just to find out what those LEDs are doing on the batteries. Okay, so there's your 2-month update, and I'll do another update later on as I continue to use these SunFunKit lithium batteries. Okay. All right, guys, thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it informative and learned a lot about the nickel to lithium upgrade on your Polaris EV. If you have questions, leave them down below. I'm pretty good at getting back to people very quickly with answers, best I can anyway. Remember to hit the like button if you found it informative, subscribe to the channel if you want to learn about building a campground, and watch this next video if you want to see my evaluation of the Polaris EV.